Wide receiver may be one of the most difficult positions to put into your lineup on a weekly basis for fantasy football. But I get it. You want your wide receivers catching more balls than a Kardashian sitting courtside at an NBA game. And that's what we're talking about today. Who should you start? Who should you sit from the wide receiver position? What's going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully you guys are all doing well out there. Welcome back to the Draft.com studios, where today we're talking ball catchers. Yep, starts and sits for the wide receiver position for week 1 of the NFL season is upon us. Now, if you haven't checked out our running back video, we're doing this one the same way. Every fantasy football viable wide receiver from every game we're talking about in this video. So if that's what you're looking for, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because we're getting ready to talk about a whole lot of wide receivers, not just our top 5 starts and top 5 sits of the week. That doesn't do a lot of people any good. Let's talk a lot of players in a short amount of time right now. All right, let's kick off the NFL season on Thursday Night Football with hopefully not a snoozer. The Packers at the Bears should be a good game. And for our starts here, we're going Davante Adams. Duh. I mean, he's arguably one of the best wide receivers in football, being thrown the ball by arguably one of the best quarterbacks in football, and he's got some of the highest touchdown upside of all wide receivers in fantasy football here in 2019. No matter who he plays, even though it's not an ideal start to the season against the Bears, you're going to start Davante Adams. Also going to start Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson has huge upside in this game. If the Packers can score a few touchdowns early, at least get somewhat of a lead, they're going to throw the ball in Chicago. And Allen Robinson, another year in this Matt Nagy offense, another year with Mitch Trubisky gaining some chemistry, another year removed from the torn ACL that maybe limited him slightly last season. We saw flashes of him in this offense last year, and it could happen quite a bit this year. I like Allen Robinson in week 1. As far as sits go, I'm going to sit both MVS and Geronimo Allison. Listen, one of these guys is going to emerge as the clear-cut number 2 to Aaron Rodgers. Who is it going to be? It's kind of a toss-up. I like Allison in the slot a lot. However, MVS on the outside, young, big, athletic receiver, could also do some damage opposite of Davante Adams. Which one of these guys separates themselves? Geronimo Allison was the number 2 last year, really had good chemistry with Aaron Rodgers until he suffered a season-ending injury. Until we find out more clarity in this passing game, it's going to be a risk to start either one of them. I like them, but let's see who comes out as the number 2. Anthony Miller, also going to sit him, love his upside for the rest of the season. However, here in week 1, not maybe being 100%, I'm going to sit him this week. There's going to be opportunities for him down the line, though. I mean, this season could be some big numbers for Anthony Miller, but until he gets to be 100%, I'm sitting him right now, especially in week 1. Moving on to Sunday, we got the Rams and the Panthers, and I want any part of this passing game for the most part. Love Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp this week. Cooper Kupp continues to impress everybody like he's the bionic man. I mean, he just tore his ACL last November, and the guy looks absolutely great. At some point, I was expecting a little bit of regression or some type of a little bit of a setback, but the guy just seems to be, superhuman and looks great. If that's the case, huge red zone threat for Jared Goff. We already know the big playability is there for Brandon Cooks. Robert Woods is the safety guy. I mean, he can do it all. He can make big plays. He can move the chains, whatever you need. All 3 of these guys could shoulder a bigger load here in 2019, especially if they pull back the reins a little bit on Todd Gurley. Now, for the Panthers side, I'm still going to start Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. However, I'm a little bit more worried about DJ Moore. Kind of have him as a flex play at best. Why? I just don't trust Cam Newton. That's the biggest thing. How dependent on big plays is DJ Moore going to be, at least on the deep ball? I can see Curtis Samuel living underneath with Christian McCaffrey in the short passing game and really putting up solid numbers on a weekly basis. Not to mention, he has game-breaking speed also. Give him the ball in space, big things could happen. Regardless, so any one of these guys, I wouldn't have any issues having in my lineup here for week 1. Redskins-Eagles are next, and I really do expect the Eagles to take this game pretty easily, but I expect more passing first half, more running second half. That first half, the emotions are going to be high. It's going to be not only week 1 of the NFL season, they're going to be playing at home in Philadelphia. Deshaun Jackson coming back to Philadelphia. He's not what he used to be, but going up against a former team in the Washington Redskins, to start the season in Philadelphia, whole lot of emotions going on, and I can really see them making a conscious effort to get Djax the ball. Can he break a big play? It's entirely possible. I like him here week 1. Alshon Jeffrey, another one of these guys that, may have a little bit less defensive attention than what he's used to. He's kind of been the number one there all along. Now, with other options there besides Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and all their running backs and Jordan Howard, there's a ton of options in Philadelphia. It's not just Alshon Jeffrey right now. He could benefit from that, and he could really have himself a decent game. He may lose some red zone targets throughout the season. With the big-bodied, Ertz, Goddard, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, these guys could take away some of that touchdown upside from Alshon Jeffrey. However, I like him in the matchup this week, and he's going to be a start for me. As far as sits go, I'm sitting everybody in a Redskins jersey. They have a lot of young talent there, right, with Terry McLaurin and Kelvin Harmon. But we know Case Keenum's starting, no Dwayne Haskins. How do they involve the running game? Too many questions for me right there with the Washington Redskins. There's too many other options that we really don't want to guess on week one. We're really trying to get that victory week one, and hopefully you do not have to rely on a Redskins receiver, because if you do, you better play eeny, meeny, miny, mo, because your guess is as good as mine at this point. In a battle of one of the least sexiest matchups of the week, we got the Bills and the Jets. I'm not going to take too many risks in this game. It's the Bills and the Jets. For the Jets, though, I'll start Robbie Anderson. He's a solid number one for them. He seems to be kind of in that low-end wide receiver 2 tier. Really has huge upside, big playability. Worked on his chemistry with Sam Darnold in the offseason. There's other weapons there to take away some of that defensive attention. I like Robbie Anderson here in week one. The Buffalo Bills defense, though, is not one to be ignored. It is a definitely solid defense. Another start is going to be John Brown for the Buffalo Bills. He's kind of emerged as the clear-cut number one in Buffalo, which is a little surprising. They added Cole Beasley, and we were knowing about Zay Jones and the tax man Bob Foster. But right now, John Brown seems to be the only fantasy viable wide receiver until there's more clarity in that wide receiver group. A lot of talent. How they use it, though, we need to watch that before we put one of those other guys in our lineup. As you can see there by the sits, Zay Jones, Cole Beasley, Quincy Enunwa, Jamison Crowder, some of the other guys there from the other teams that I'm not going to take a chance on week one. I just mentioned it not that long ago. You really want to start off strong week one. You want to get out of the gates with a win. Hopefully you're not reliant on one of the Jets or Bills wide receivers to do that. But if you are, John Brown, Robbie Anderson, your two best guesses. Now moving on to a game that I like a lot. It's going to be the Falcons and the Vikings. Now the Vikings defense is a little bit more superior than the Falcons, but it doesn't matter. I'm not sitting Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. If you have them, you're more than likely going to start them because I doubt you have a lot of better options on your bench. This could be a very fun game to watch despite a solid defense by the Minnesota Vikings. There could be a lot of offense in this game going back and forth, and I want a piece of it. If you own any four of these guys, I have no issues having them in my lineup. Not even worried about it in the least. All right, now I just sat here and told you how much I like the Falcons and Vikings game. Well, that's how much I dislike the passing options for the Ravens and Dolphins. I'll put Albert Wilson down as a start because there's really not a whole lot of other options there, and I do like Fitzmagic under center. However, we're talking deep flex, like leagues larger than 12 teams type flex. I don't want to trust him. I don't want to trust any of these guys if I don't have to. Devontae Parker, dude's like the fantasy football version of Bigfoot. He makes appearances and then disappears for long periods of time. Jakeem Grant, nice player, really big play dependent, maybe kickoff return dependent. All the Baltimore wide receivers, no thank you. I'm really not interested in it. Maybe some of the tight ends in this game, but the wide receivers, which ones do I trust to start? There isn't one. I'm avoiding all of them altogether. This could be an ugly passing game, and if so, I'm not touching any of these pieces. Trying to kickstart some offense here. We're going to come up to the Chiefs and Jags. Now, obviously, if you have Tyreek Hill, you're not looking forward to a matchup with the Jaguars, but you're not going to sit him regardless. You're still going to start him. Still one of the top wide receivers in fantasy football. But I also like Sammy Watkins. I think a lot of the defensive attention goes towards Hill and Kelsey. And Sammy Watkins, as long as he's healthy, which he is right now, is a solid fantasy option as a low-end flex play wide receiver 3. The guy has upside in an offense that we know is going to throw the ball a lot. Now, on the opposite side of the football, I'll start Dede Westbrook. We know the Jags are going to have to throw the ball, right? We know that Blake Bortles isn't there anymore. Nick Foles is under center. Hopefully they can move the ball a little bit better, but they're going to have to try to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs. How do they do that? A lot of targets going the way of Dede Westbrook. I like him this week. He's going to be a start for me also. A sneaky game as a deep flex play in some of these larger leagues. Don't forget about Chris Conley. And no, Chris Conley is no longer on the Chiefs. He's now in the Jaguars going up against his former team. That's a possible flex play in some of those deeper leagues. Marquise Lee, a name that we've heard of in the past, not somebody who I'm going to start. Heck, he's probably on a waiver wire everywhere in every league. Not going to worry about him, but Chris Conley is definitely somebody who could have some sneaky upside here in week 1. Titans and Browns now, and the Browns kick off their NFL season at home, the new look Browns, and we're going to start Odell Beckham, obviously, right? I mean, you invested a first or second round pick in him. You're going to start him, even though the Tennessee defense is no pushover. This isn't going to just be some cakewalk for the Cleveland Browns. But I'm also going to start Jarvis Landry. I really believe that Jarvis Landry has one of his best seasons of his career this year because so much defensive attention is looking elsewhere. Landry has always been the guy. No matter where he's been here in the NFL, he's been the number one option in that offense. He's not anymore. They have a viable running game with Nick Chubb in the backfield. Baker Mayfield can make throws all over the field. An athletic tight end in David Njoku. Jarvis Landry could absolutely eat this year. Now, is he going to go out and get 1,500 yards? No, probably not. But could he rack up 100 receptions? He could get dang close, and I'm starting Jarvis Landry this week. As far as sits, anybody in a Tennessee uniform. I don't trust this passing offense whatsoever. I love the pieces individually, the Corey Davises, the A.J. Browns, the Adam Humphreys. I like the pieces. Heck, I even like Delaney Walker. What I don't like is the quarterback play out of Marcus Mariota. I just don't see consistency there, and it's going to be really hit or miss. I mean, it could be Davis one week, Brown the next week, Humphreys the week after that. I mean, it's going to be too hard to pinpoint, so unless something changes here in the coming weeks, I'm not interested in any of the pass catchers of the Tennessee Titans. Colts and Chargers up now, the post-Andrew Luck era Colts. But who do we start in this game? Well, Keenan Allen for the Chargers is going to be a start for me, but we really need to pay attention to practice reports if he's limited at all. There's a chance that he doesn't even play in week 1. Now, they're saying that, yeah, he's going to play, but watch those practice reports. Keep a close eye on it. Come the weekend, if he's limited at all, you may want to look at other options. I'm also going to start Mike Williams for this exact reason. There's a chance that Mike Williams goes out there and sees huge volume, even if Keenan Allen does play. If he's not 100%, maybe he's out there somewhat as a decoy. Mike Williams could see a huge amount of targets week 1 going up against the Colts. Love both plays there for the Chargers. For the Colts side, I'm still going to start T.Y. Hilton. I think a lot of people hate on Jacoby Brissett, but he's not a horrible quarterback. Just got a couple-year extension there in his contract. They paid him some money to be the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. They believe in this guy, and maybe we should a little bit more too. Now, is T.Y. Hilton the same T.Y. Hilton as he was with Andrew Luck? No, probably not. Probably doesn't have that wide receiver 1 upside, but he does have wide receiver 2 upside still, and it's still going to be a start. Another sneaky play for me is Paris Campbell. This is definitely a guy who could eat underneath. Maybe Jacoby Brissett isn't 100% ready. Maybe he's not fully up to speed on the entire game plan or the playbook. Maybe he lives underneath. Maybe he doesn't use the deep ball as much as we saw from Andrew Luck. Who benefits from that? It's Paris Campbell. He's more of a deeper league stash, deeper league flex play, but the upside, the PPR upside, is huge for Paris Campbell. As far as sits goes, is it really a question? The hashtag remains, it's a new year, it's a new season, but it's still never funchous. Moving on to a game of the depleted Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Seattle Seahawks. And my start's just going to be Tyler Lockett. There's not a whole lot of pass catchers in Seattle, in case you haven't noticed. DK Metcalf sounds like he's going to play, but is he 100%? Still remains to be seen. We could definitely be seeing double-digit targets going Tyler Lockett's way, and I'm all about that. Definitely going to start him here in week 1. As far as sits go, though, I'm going to sit Tyler Boyd, and I've been pretty high on him all offseason, and I still am. But in week 1, the Cincinnati Bengals, with a depleted offensive line going up against this front 7 of the Seattle Seahawks, just spells all kinds of disaster for Andy Dalton. I can see them relying more on the check down passes and not really getting Tyler Boyd the ball down the field. For that reason, I'm going to sit Tyler Boyd. We already talked about DK Metcalf. Let's see how close to 100% he is before we even think about putting him in a lineup. A lot of people are thinking he's big play dependent, and he more than likely is. But this offense has produced a lot of big plays in the past. Let's make sure he's 100% though. And then John Ross. I mean, is there anybody else boom or bust like John Ross? I mean, he's had a couple opportunities, has game-breaking speed, hasn't done a whole lot with it. If I'm not going to trust Tyler Boyd, I'm not going to trust John Ross. Niners and Bucks are up next, and as far as the starts go, we know we're going to start Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, below-average offensive line, below-average run game, below-average defense all in Tampa Bay. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Those are their 2 main pass catchers, both of them solid fantasy plays here for week 1. For the 49ers, though, I'm also going to have Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin as flex plays at best. Hopefully in the larger, 12, 14, 16 team leagues, these guys have upside. Marquise Goodwin, big play dependent, though. He needs that big touchdown. Dante Pettis has somewhat of a safer floor. He can go out there and catch 8 to 10 balls on a weekly basis. The problem is they have so many other options in that offense. Deebo Samuel is another one. I'm not really trusting Deebo Samuel in any starting lineups right now, but he's somebody who could develop as the season goes along. Jalen Hurd is in the mix, but he's dealing with an injured back. He will not play week 1. A lot of pieces in this offense, but once they get it dialed in and we can see how it's going to work, that offense in San Francisco is going to put up some fantasy numbers, so that's something we need to pay attention to. However, for this week, Pettis and Goodwin, flex plays at best, in my opinion. Giants and Cowboys up now, and for the starts, I got Sterling Shepard up first, more of a flex play at best. We don't know if he's 100% good to go. It sounds like he's going to be out there, and if he is, he's the main pass catcher for the New York Football Giants. And he's definitely somebody who has that double-digit target upside, and that's what we're looking for, especially at a flex position. Maybe you start multiple flexes. This guy is somebody who could get that volume. You got him a little bit later in your drafts, more than likely, so you're not reliant on him. But the upside, the big playability, could be there for Sterling Shepard. Amari Cooper for the Cowboys. Another one of these guys that seems like he's over his plantar fasciitis. He's been out there back on the practice field. Looks like he's good to go, and without Zeke Elliott in the backfield, they'll be more reliant on throwing the ball in Dallas. Amari Cooper could see some big days. Michael Gallup is another name, more of a flex play in deeper leagues. But like I just mentioned, if Zeke isn't there, they're going to have to throw the ball more. Michael Gallup has looked great and could definitely be a name that surprises here week 1. Also, Randall Cobb. This is more deeper leagues, 12, 14, 16 team leagues, has that PPR upside. May not go out there and have a big game yardage-wise, but could definitely rack up the receptions and help you if you're in need of a solid flex play in those deeper leagues. Now, as far as sits goes, there ain't not a whole lot. I mean, there's nobody else to really put on there from New York, so I put Darius Slayton. He'll be a rookie in his first NFL game, has some upside. We know Golden Tate's going to miss the first few weeks of the season. Darius Slayton may get an opportunity, and if he does, maybe it's a name we look at week 2, but as far as week 1 goes, I'm not trusting it. Lions and Cardinals up next in the home opener for the Arizona Cardinals, but I'm going to be starting Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay for the Detroit Lions. Why? The Cardinals are without their top 2 defensive backs, Robert Alford and Patrick Peterson, neither one of them going to be on the field. I expect to see a healthier Matthew Stafford and a more improved passing game. Why? Because they have a running game now. Kerryon Johnson, C.J. Anderson should be able to keep that defense a little bit more honest. The return of Marvin Jones is going to be a big play guy for Matthew Stafford. I'm wanting both of them in my lineups. Now, Kenny Galladay, more of that wide receiver 2. Marvin Jones, more of the flex play. However, both of them have huge touchdown upside going up against the Arizona Cardinals. I also like Christian Kirk a lot this week. In the first game with Kyler Murray, they're going to have to throw the ball. If I expect the Lions to throw the ball successfully, the Cardinals are then going to have to turn around and do the same thing. I'm going to sit Larry Fitzgerald because as of right now, he's matched up against Darius Slay. Now, am I saying that Slay is going to lock him down? This is one of the greatest wide receivers of all time in Larry Fitzgerald. If they can move him around the field, give him time not only on the outside but in the slot, Larry could have a decent game. But as of right now, going one-on-one with Darius Slay, he may be somewhat touchdown dependent, and that's why I've dropped him down the list a little bit. Michael Crabtree, another name that's come up here recently. He hasn't been in Arizona very long. I'm not expecting a whole lot. It's more of a veteran presence, and he's somebody who could be somebody we talk about here in the future weeks. But as far as week 1 goes, Christian Kirk is the only Arizona Cardinal wide receiver that I'm going to start. Sunday night game, I'm going to like this one a lot too. I expect a lot of passing here on Sunday Night Football. That's why we're going to go ahead and start Juju and Dante Moncrief. We know no more Antonio Brown. We know that the Pittsburgh Steelers like to throw the ball almost more than any other team in the NFL. And just because Antonio Brown is gone doesn't mean that's going to change. The names are just going to change. Do I expect Juju to become Antonio Brown and Moncrief to become Juju? Not exactly, but there's other weapons there. James Washington will be in the mix also. Vance McDonald from the tight end position. But these two, both of them, Juju and Dante Moncrief, could be in for some huge volume. We already know that the Patriots just seem to surprise people on a yearly basis. They come out of nowhere with names you've probably never heard of at times and put up big points. We expect a little bit more of the same this year. I'm also going to be starting Edelman and Gordon. Now, Edelman had a little bit of an injury scare. I mean, he'd been dealing with a broken finger here throughout the offseason and then took an awkward hit, landed funny, looked like he landed on his bad finger in this last preseason game. Why he was on the field, no idea. However, reports are coming out that he should be good to go. If he's out there, you know he's seeing double-digit targets. Josh Gordon, big play upside, somebody who can stretch the field, get the 50-50 ball, and really gives Tom Brady that big weapon on the outside that he's used to having, because don't forget, there's no more Gronk in this offense either. Josh Gordon, as long as he's on the field, could be a force to be reckoned with also. Going to start all 4 of these guys. First game of our Monday night doubleheader here, we have the Texans at the Saints. And Vegas is predicting an absolute shootout, the highest scoring game of the weekend right here. And there's reasons for that to be. I mean, look at DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas, two of the best wide receivers in all of football. They're automatic must-starts. If you have them, I don't care who they're playing, you're starting them. So let's talk about a few of the other pieces. What about Will Fuller? He's healthy entering the season. He may not last very long, but he's healthy right now, and we already know he has that chemistry with Deshaun Watson. We expect the Saints to score a lot of points. If that's the case, the Texans are going to have to throw the ball all 4 quarters to keep pace. Kiki QT, not 100%. May not even play. Kenny Stills hasn't been in Houston for a couple days. He's not going to be there demanding a large target share. Will Fuller, this could be one of those games where Will Fuller has a huge game, and I would not mind throwing him as my flex play here in week 1. As far as the Saints go, on the opposite side, Ted Ginn is kind of sneaky this week. Maybe in those larger leagues, 14, 16 teams as a flex play, Ted Ginn has some upside, some big play upside. He kind of always just seems to sneak by the defense and get that deep touchdown. I can see it happening again this week. And in those deeper leagues, Ted Ginn isn't a bad start. Second game of the Monday night doubleheader, we got the Broncos and the Raiders, so definitely not as good as the first game of Monday Night Football, but there's some pieces here that I'm intrigued on for fantasy football in week 1. For the Broncos, I'm going to go ahead and start Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton if I got him. I mean, these are two players that could definitely be involved in the game plan heavily. I expect the Raiders to come out and try to make a statement in week 1. They've been the laughingstock for a while. They spent a lot of money in the offseason. I can see them coming out week 1 and really trying to open up this offense. If that's the case, Denver's going to have to continue to throw the ball all 4 quarters. Emmanuel Sanders, Courtland Sutton, my 2 best options for those big plays this week. For the Raiders, if I think they're going to come out and really open up that offense, we kind of got to start Antonio Brown, obviously. And Tyrell Williams is a sneaky flex play in deeper leagues. A lot of attention is going to be in that backfield with Josh Jacobs and with Antonio Brown. Heck, a lot of attention is going to be paid to Hunter Renfrow. Who could really be the beneficiary of that? Tyrell Williams made a living off the deep ball with the Chargers and Phillip Rivers. Could he do the same for the Oakland Raiders? Has that sneaky upside here in week 1. As far as the sits go, Hunter Renfrow, first game as an NFL player, not going to be involved in probably too many packages. May see a few targets just to move the chains here or there, but not a real difference maker, not a huge ceiling. Deshaun Hamilton, I like Deshaun Hamilton a lot. I just don't think that he fits this game script this week. He's definitely somebody who may be involved more in future games, but right now to start the year, I'm sticking with Emmanuel Sanders and Courtland Sutton. All right, so those were all my start sits here for week 1 fantasy football. If you enjoyed this format, let me know down in the comment section. We try to be as interactive as humanly possible. We will do our best to answer every question and comment in these videos. However, they come in by the truckload. I mean, I'm sure you can see it. We try to be as interactive as possible. So leave those comments down below. If you enjoyed the format, hit that thumbs up for me, the like button. That really helps us out here on YouTube. And if this is really a format that you prefer or that you enjoy, at least hearing about the players on your fantasy football teams, consider hitting that subscribe button. You won't be disappointed. We'll be doing these types of shows for all the positions every single week, all the way through the entire regular season. Really appreciate the support of Headliner Nation. Almost hitting 50K. 50K is a big number, not one that we're, not embarrassed to say that we're excited to hit. Really appreciate the support out there from all you guys. We could not do it without you. Have a great, great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later.